Frederick Douglass was an American social reformer, abolitionist, orator, writer, and statesman.
He became the most important leader of the movement for African American civil rights and the most photographed man in the 19th century. Early life.
Frederick Douglass was born on 1817 or 1818 in Maryland, DXC. Frederick Douglass was born enslaved, where he would be separated from his mother because he worked on a different plantation.
When it comes to his father, it's presumed that he was actually his mother's slave owner.
Even though Frederick barely got to see his mother throughout his lifetime, he was still taken care of as a child by his grandmother, Betsy Bailey. Even though the young Frederick was living through harsh conditions of slavery every day for all of his early years, he secretly taught himself how to read and write.
Throughout Frederick's lifetime, he was sent off to work on multiple plantations, but there's one that would change how his life went forever. Sophia Auld was the wife of Frederick Douglass's master when he was 12, and although Frederick had taught himself a little bit to read and write, she was the one who taught him how to read better and the alphabet itself. Unfortunately, for the 12-year-old Frederick, his owner would soon find out about these lessons and requested to his wife for these lessons to stop immediately.
Even though these lessons had stopped, Frederick would keep teaching himself in private, reading many books. This self-feeding of knowledge had helped Frederick see that literature was the path to freedom, and this would be heavily supported by his part in the Civil War.
As Frederick grew older, so did his reliance and defiance over control, causing an important spark in him that would be shown throughout his writings and speeches as an abolitionist.
This is supported by his resistance over the control of a brutal overseer named Edward Covey.
The date is April 1836. Frederick Douglass is now 18 and seeking freedom on the other side of the United States.
At this time, he was enslaved on the plantation of William Freeland in Maryland. Frederick Douglass would start an escape plan to the north. However, this plan sadly failed when an enslaved person had told on their escape plans, causing Frederick and the men he tried escaping with in jail. During his time in jail, Frederick Douglass feared that he would be sold to the Deep South, which was a common place for rebellious slaves to be sent to as punishment.
Even after Frederick's rebellious behavior, he wasn't sent to the Deep South, but instead hired by his previous owner, Hugh Auld.
Frederick was required to work in a shipyard. This experience would eventually cause Frederick Douglass the opportunity to escape 2 years later in 1838. Frederick Douglass escape from slavery. Frederick Douglass was able to escape from slavery on the 3rd of September 1838. Frederick had masked out a plan to escape using a clever disguise with a risky journey ahead of him. He had been working in a shipyard and was able to observe 3 black sailors traveling with official documents called Seaman's Protection Papers.
These papers proved that they were free, allowing them to pass by.
Frederick did not do this alone though. He had the help of a woman named Anna Murray, who was not only a free black woman, but the woman Frederick Douglass would end up making his first wife.
Douglass was able to obtain a sailor suit and freedom papers from a free black sailor.
This is where his plan would come in motion.
After disguising himself, Frederick would board a train heading north from Baltimore.
Once the train went through Wilmington, Delaware, he took a steamboat to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a free state.
Finally, he would take another train towards his destination, New York City, where he arrived safely on the 4th of September 1938.
Once he was in New York,
Douglass sought out help from abolitionists and reunited with Anna. The two of them would move to New Bedford, Massachusetts, where they began a new life, and Frederick officially changed his name to the one we know of today.
Frederick Douglass. This name was created to avoid being captured.
Equal rights. As we all know, slavery was one of the most gruesome acts of violence in history, and back then, it wasn't a rare thing to see. There were some people, however, who disagreed with it and fought against it, including Frederick Douglass.
These people are called abolitionists. Frederick Douglass would begin attending abolitionist meetings where he quickly gained recognition for his powerful speeches.
This caught the attention of a very well-known abolitionist at the time named William Lloyd Garrison, a leading abolitionist. Douglass traveled across the North, speaking about the horrors of slavery and the need for its abolition.
In 1845, Frederick Douglass posted his very own biography titled Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass.
This book revealed the very dark and twisted truth of slavery.
Frederick would then travel to Ireland and Great Britain, where he gained international support. This allowed him to legally purchase his freedom, making Frederick Douglass an official free man of the US in 1847. Frederick Douglass would then publish a newspaper named the North Star in 1847. It was named the North Star because it represented what slaves were told when asked what directions to follow to escape for freedom. Follow the North Star.
He used his newspaper to advocate for the end of slavery, women's rights, and racial equality.
Civil War. Frederick Douglass had a very big role in the Civil War. Frederick convinced the President of the United States at the time, Abraham Lincoln, to allow black men to fight in the Union, which helped make the creation of black regiments. Lincoln also had several meetings with Douglass where they would discuss about slavery and equal rights. This pushed the idea of the war mainly being focused about ending slavery, helping make the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. Conclusion. Frederick Douglass would meet his end on February 20, 1895 at the age of 77. Frederick Douglass's legacy as an abolitionist, writer, and leader will never be forgotten, and the impacts he made to have the world we do today will always be cherished.